How's that gumbo? When I heard there was going to be gumbo here tonight, I decided to come. I tell you what, welcome again to the October meeting of the Hopkins County Republican Club. And I'd like everybody at this time to go ahead and stand so we can say the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Folks, we've got some interesting stuff to discuss tonight. As you know, the first Tuesday in November is Election Day, and we have 11 constitutional amendments that are on the ballot. Now, I believe everybody has a form ballot in front of them, don't they? Does anybody not have a form ballot?
They're probably going to share, Erwin. I didn't bring enough.
Okay, well, we're good. Here's what I propose. Here's what I think is probably going to be the best thing to do. We've got some microphones. I'll just put one on each table. What I'm going to do is read the amendment. I'm going to read a pro and I'm going to read a con, and then we'll discuss each amendment for 3 or 4 minutes and then go to the next one, okay? Because we got 11 minutes. We need to make sure that we're not here till midnight. How are you? Now remember, amendments are a little bit more important than just statutory law. This actually changes the founding document of our state, so it's something that we need to take very, very seriously. So these things need careful consideration. What I'd ask you to do, if you do have something to say, to please be specific and concise, because we've got 11 of these things to go through, so we need to make sure that we're using our time as wisely as we can. Okay, let's start with proposition number 1. Proposition number 1 is the constitutional amendment authorizing the financing, including through tax increment financing, of the acquisition by municipalities and counties of buffer areas or open spaces adjacent to a military installation for the prevention of encroachment or for the construction of roadways, utilities, or other infrastructure to protect or promote the mission of the military installation. Now, some of the pros for that is that Proposition 1 would allow cities and counties to help shield military installations in their area from encroachment by development. The military installations need protection from encroachment to ensure the safety and security of an installation's operations and training. Those opposed to it bring this point up, that allowing cities and counties to build infrastructure under the broad justification of protecting or promoting the mission of a military installation could lead to higher property taxes at a time when property owners are already feeling an economic burden. Proposition 1 could also allow cities to infringe on private property rights. The general notion from a conservative perspective, for example, from the Texans for Fiscal Responsibility, which is one of the largest taxpayers association in the state, is that Proposition 1 would be inappropriate at this time because of the possibility of raising taxes. The recommendation from most of the conservative organizations that I review information from is that no is an appropriate vote for Proposition 1. Do we have any other discussion with regard to any of the propositions? I'm sorry, with Proposition 1. Okay, let's move to 2. There seems to be some confusion on this, so let's make sure we talk about this one very carefully. Number 2, the constitutional amendment authorizing the legislature to provide for the ad valorem taxation of a resident homestead solely on the basis of the property's value as a resident homestead. Now, the pro is this proposition would provide an important check on the property tax appraisal hikes. The proposition eliminates the current standard of property appraisal, where resident homesteads are valued based on their highest and best use, allowing for excessive property taxation. According to the House Select Committee on Property Tax Relief and Appraisal Reform, appraisal values increased by 200 to 400% in 1 year as a result of the highest and best use standard. And by passing Proposition 2, resident homesteads will be appraised based strictly on their value as a resident's homestead rather than their value if they were put to their highest and best commercial use. Those who are who are against this proposition say, according to the Legislative Budget Board, allowing homestead residential property to be valued based solely on its residential use and exempted from a highest and best use valuation could reduce taxable property values and thereby reduce local tax revenues. So do we have any discussion with regard to Proposition 2? Yes, sir. We have a microphone there if you folks want to pass that down.
That would be like a resident sitting on a commercial piece of property. That's what we're talking about.
Yes, what this is.
It would already have to be zoned commercially for it to be priced commercially, wouldn't it?
Well, when you're using a highest and best use standard, they're not basing it on what it's zoned for. They're basing it on what its highest and best use would be.
But you couldn't build a Starbucks on it unless it's been zoned, if you're in zoning.
Well, let's say you're on the zone boundary, and you're on a residential side, and then across that boundary, you're in a commercial side. The highest and best use wouldn't stop at the line. It would consider possibly the highest and best use would be the higher property valuation on the commercial side. It would be a whole lot higher on the commercial side. Yes, ma'am. Folks, let's go ahead and use the microphones because although we can hear you speaking in the room, we're trying to get it recorded. And so please use the microphones. Thank you.
Pass your mic up.
Doris asked if this related to estate tax.
Which we don't have.
No, this is ad valorem tax. It's got nothing to do with estate tax other than the possibility of increasing your estate assets by increasing the appraisal of your home.
Erwin,
Yes, sir.
I'd urge people to vote for this because it does protect your homestead. And that's what it deals with. If your house is, like Marvin said, it's even sitting on a piece of commercial property, it can be valued at commercial value. But if it's a homestead, that's what it's going to do is exempt your property from being taxed at commercial values. And it will save an individual a lot of money. So as far as the Smiths are concerned, we'd urge you to vote for it.
The advantage is to the homeowner, as long as he keeps it as a residence, it's going to keep the taxes down. Because one of the things that happens is that if he's right next to commercial property and the city zones the commercial property farther out, and all of a sudden his value goes way sky high, and his tax goes so high that he can't afford to stay there.
Don and Rex basically are right. This is simply an amendment to limit the appraisal district's ability. It's a limitation of the standards that they're using for their appraisal. They're no longer going to be able to use the highest and best use standard because the highest and best use for your homestead location might be for a very expensive commercial enterprise. Any other comment about Prop 2?
Since I've been close to that kind of a situation, I'd vote for it.
Recommendation is to vote for Proposition 2.